been moved and seconded that we call for a public hearing pursuant to ARS 15-905. All those in favor, please vote by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Oh, good.
Wireless.
Yeah, it's on wireless mics.
Okay. So
We'd like to begin our regular board meeting. Thank you for joining us. Tonight is Tuesday, July 26, 2022. I will call this meeting to order, followed by a moment of silence and then a pledge of allegiance led by Dr. Santa Cruz. If you'll please join me for a moment of silence.
Please join me in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Mrs. Wilson, could you please call the roll for me?
Dr. Charles Santa Cruz,
Here.
Mr. Bill Parker,
Here.
Ms. Lori Wood,
Here.
Ms. Jill Humphreys,
Here.
Ms. Sheila Ujetti.
Here.
Madam President, all board members are present. You have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And welcome again to those who are here and those who are joining us online. And welcome to everyone back to school. It was our first day of school today and heard that there was good things and appreciate all the efforts that went into getting us back to school today and the students for being there and being ready and parents for supporting that. Let's move to the approval of Agenda 2.01. Board members, may I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. Dr. Santa Cruz, is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Parker. It's been moved and seconded that we approve the agenda. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor, please vote by saying aye.
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 Any opposed with nay? Passes 5-0. Thank you. We will now move to the superintendent's report, and I'll turn the time over to Dr. McCord.
Thank you, Madam President, governing board members. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us tonight in person and online. As Ms. Wood said, today was our first day of school for students, and we had a little over 33,000 students on our campuses and approximately 4,200 staff members working with those kiddos. The energy and the excitement on the campuses were very special, and everyone was pumped up and ready to get the year started. I had the opportunity to go to all the campuses east of Power Road today, and everyone I was at was filled with a lot of energy, a lot of smiles, and a lot of people very eager to educate kids. So it was really exciting to see. I want to say a big thank you to our operations department for taking such good care of our facilities this summer. Our director of operations is here. Wave at everybody, Albert. Albert and his crew, we had some sort of project on almost every campus and operations, and the contractors worked extremely hard to accomplish as much as possible. We still have to finish up some projects on some campuses, but I'm incredibly proud of what has been accomplished during the summer, so thank you again to you and your folks. Appreciate it, Albert. I'd also like to give a shout out to a few people in our community education department. Rose Gonzalez, Tyler Newman, and Holly Morales, which are all specialists for the VIK program, put together a job fair last Friday evening and ended up hiring 13 individuals who came to the fair. They wanted to make sure, and this was what's special about it. It's, as everybody knows, it's hard to find people to do certain jobs these days. And these three got their heads together because they wanted to make sure that all of our VIK programs on all of our campus were staffed appropriately. And so they put this together and again, ended up hiring 13 people that came through the door. And they said they're all quality individuals. So I want to just thank them personally for going that extra mile and making sure they're doing everything they can for our kids and our programs. And lastly, coming up on Saturday, August 13th, we'll hold our annual VNet Kickoff Training and Vendor Expo. This event begins at 8 a.m. at Gilbert High School. And for those of you that don't know, VNet stands for Volunteer Network. And the kickoff training is designed for PTSOs and booster clubs. And what they'll do and what they'll get is training related to fundraising ideas as well as properly running meetings and how to handle finances in their specific areas. VNet has been around for several years now, and they are a huge help to all of our PTSO and booster clubs, as well as our district. And so I want to say thank you to them, and we look forward to seeing you at the training. Mrs. Wood, that concludes my report for this evening.
Thank you, Dr. McCord. That takes us to item 4.0, request to speak to the governing board, and we have one request, so I will ask that we play the admonition, please.
The board may make an open call to the public during a public meeting, subject to reasonable time, place, and manner restrictions to allow individuals to address the public body on an issue within the jurisdiction of the public body. At the conclusion of the open call to the public, individual board members may respond to criticism made by those who have addressed the board, may ask the staff to review a matter, or may ask a matter to be put on a future agenda. However, members of the board shall not discuss or take legal action on matters raised during the open call to the public unless the matters are properly noticed for discussion and legal action. During the open call, the board requests that speakers refrain from voicing complaints against school personnel or any person connected with the district, as it may impact due process rights. Policy KE, KEB, and KED are provided by the board for disposition of legitimate complaints, including those involving individuals. Forms required for use of these policies can be obtained from the Gilbert Public Schools website.
Thank you. Our speaker tonight is Chad Thompson. If you'll come up, you'll have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. Board members, Dr. McCord, I want to address the issue of transparency, or rather some holes in the transparency in GPS. There's no place where parents can go and see exactly what materials their children's teachers are using in the classroom. This board voted to purchase a literature program, language arts program called Savas. Although Savas has technical capabilities to aid in teacher success, there are very questionable supplemental materials within the Savas curriculum that are inappropriate and potentially damaging to the developing minds of our students. I'm going to share a couple of examples, and unfortunately, there's no way to discuss what's in these materials without using words and language that may be shocking to some here and some viewers online. So I don't know if I should just keep going or if we want to pause what's online. Okay. The first book, titled The Perks of Being a Wallflower. This book is about a boy that is sexually abused by his aunt and includes scenes of sex, drugs, multiple incidents of homosexual sex, abuse of a minor, pedophilia, and bullying. Another book on the supplemental reading list is called Looking for Alaska. This book is the 4th most banned book in the U.S. because of the extreme sexual content. Content like 3 pages dedicated to how to give a blowjob, promiscuous teenage sex, teenagers watching pornography, masturbation, drugs, profanity, underage drinking, drinking and driving, suicide, and detailed language describing various sex acts. These are just a couple of the thousands of supplemental materials available to teachers. Although I believe GPS has amazing teachers, and I suspect they would not intentionally do anything to negatively impact students or infringe parental rights, supplemental materials like this and the lack of transparency leaves opportunities for some of these very questionable materials finding their way into the classroom without parental knowledge or consent. I would think complete transparency would benefit and protect teachers as much as it would students. Something as simple as a portal where parents can click and see what materials their child's teacher is planning to use in the upcoming weeks. Teachers can update this as the year progresses, and everyone, including parents, will know exactly what is being taught and what materials are being used. This would require minimal effort on the part of teachers, and the benefits would be enormous. I encourage this board to find ways to be more transparent with parents so trust can be maintained and even increased. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. I would ask Dr. McCord or that we could either address this. I don't know that we can address it tonight, but how can we address the concerns? Because I know that we have many of those things actually in place and have addressed some of those concerns. So I appreciate them bringing it up, but I would like to address that.
We will, I'll talk to Dr. Newman, we'll address those issues, and I'm sure that it was vetted through the committee and the process, so we'll be able to have answers for those questions.
Should we, like, at the next board meeting, or how do you, or what would you like to do?
Well, let me get with Dr. Newman first,
Okay.
and then I'll let you know.
Okay, thank you. All right, that takes us to 5.01, a monthly budget report. Mrs. Betts. Or Dr. McCord.
I'm just going to throw it to Mrs.
Okay,
Betts.
I
It's
saw
good.
her smiling over there. So.
Good evening, Dr. McCord, governing board members, President Wood. As usual, at this time, the second board meeting, we always present the monthly financial reflective of the prior month's activity. So let me connect. And this is a very short presentation today. So this is a report representing year-to-date June 30 of 2022. Please recall that this particular time frame, we are in that 60-day encumbrance period from July 1st through August 31st. So truly, the June 30 transactional information is not complete until the encumbrance period is over. But this is our status as of June 30. So we're going to share a couple of the reports with you. So we're going to look at the operating funds and specifically the enterprise funds. So that's nutrition services and community school. So again, we always share the maintenance and operations as well as the classroom site fund and unrestricted capital. Those are our three main operating funds here in Gilbert. So note that the available balance under the maintenance and operations is $25 million. But know too that you just approved the budget, the fiscal year 2023 budget that has an estimated budget balance carry forward. And that estimated budget balance carry forward is about $29.9 million, which is more than that $25 million. So we are expecting that over the next 2 months, we will disencumber some of our purchase orders that were not spent, that will realize an additional available balance. In addition, every summer, we have normal planned scheduled expenses that we move out of maintenance and operations into the other eligible funds. As an example, dual credit, instructional improvement for our instructional aides that help with class size reduction, and then JTED as well. So we are expecting by the end of this encumbrance period that available balance will be very, very close to that budget balance carry forward that we estimated in the adopted budget for fiscal 2023. In addition, classroom site fund, you will see that available balance has increased from the May report. And the reason for that is we have made it a practice to encumber the pay for performance monies for the whole year. These are estimates, of course, based upon all the teachers that we anticipate will be eligible. And so based upon that and the fact that we've already completed all those pays now prior to June 30, there is some money that's unencumbered, leaving an increase in that available balance. Also recall that of that $14.4 million, over $7 million of that is due to that one-time money that the legislature allocated to us at the beginning of fiscal 2022. So not trying to make sure that we're dutifully using that money, we have been holding it in reserve, not understanding what the one-time money really means as it relates to classroom site fund. And then finally, unrestricted capital outlay. The available balance is showing at $26.6 million. This also has increased from the May report. We also estimated over $28 million in budget balance carry forward in our fiscal 2023 budget. And so therefore, again, the same thing, due to supply chain issues as well, we've went ahead and ordered a bunch of things. So the purchase orders are open and encumbered, but we are obligated to receive those items before we can pay for them. So you will see encumbrances going into the 2023 school year. And so therefore, that available balance of $26.6 million, we do expect to increase after the encumbrance period. So before I move forward, are there any questions on any of those details?
I didn't want to go over the classroom site fund. We've had some changes this year due to statute. Could you just remind us of what those are? Because we're putting more into salary and leaving less for the performance pay.
That's correct. So effective fiscal 2022, so effective July 1 of 2021, the legislature approved the collapsing of the three funds associated with classroom site fund. So whereas prior to 2022, we had Fund 11, 12, and 13. Now they're all collapsed into Fund 10, giving us total flexibility on how those monies are allocated. If you recall, pay for performance was obligated to be spent at a level of 40% on the pay for performance component. That has been eliminated, except that statute still maintains the requirement that we have a pay for performance element. So we are definitely keeping a pay for performance bucket, but much of the pay for performance that we normally had allocated out has now been put into our base salaries. So that's the biggest change. In addition, statute was changed to allow us to use the classroom site fund monies that was formerly designated for classroom teachers to include our support services personnel. So these are individuals such as social workers, psychologists, speech pathologists, occupational therapists, and physical therapists, as well as behavioral counselors, all of that. So we have taken advantage of that and moved many of those allocations into those groups as well.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Anything
Dr.
else?
Santa Cruz.
Ms. Betts, just for clarification, the available balance and the encumbrances, because we have already ordered materials and can only pay for them once we have received them, when we reflect the expenditure, that expenditure will be reflected in the 21-22 budget and won't impact the 22-23 budget, will it?
So if our projection was correct and we unencumber and move those expenses to the tune of that $4 to $5 million, then you will not see a change in budget balance carry forward. So if there is an increase or a decrease in budget balance carry forward, it will impact our fiscal year 2023 budget.
Okay.
And that's true of unrestricted capital as well.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure that was clear to those who are viewing.
Okay, great. And it will not stop the spend, so any organization within Gilbert that has already ordered, whether it's classroom furniture or library furniture, or whatever the case may be, if it has not come in yet, that purchase will roll over into 2023 in preparation for when the materials are finally received, but it will then be expended in 2023, not in 2022. Okay?
Thank you.
Okay, good. So moving forward, this is just the details I just shared. This is for you to look back and for the public to review. And then these are our enterprise funds details. We thought it was important to share this because our year-to-date revenues for nutrition services and community schools have been very positive through June 30. So you can see nutrition services has received over $20 million in revenues. Recall that because we were on universal free for all of 2022 and all of 2021, the revenues, because everyone's being able to take advantage of free breakfast and lunch, so the revenues from the federal government have increased substantially. In talking about community schools, the year-to-date revenues are about $8.8 million, which is a great increase from the prior 2 years due to their achieving near 100% operations, except for the lack of staff, but they've been working on that too, as Dr. McCord shared. So, in addition, I wanted to share that the $20.5 million on the year-to-date revenues for nutrition services, at the end of the encumbrance period, that will likely go up because we have a receivable from the federal government from the National School Lunch Program. So we are submitting those claims right now to be reimbursed for all of the activity in June. We would not receive those revenues until throughout July and maybe early August, just to make sure that that's clear. And that's all I have about these two funds. Are there any questions about these two funds? Okay, then that's the end of our report today. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Betts. Appreciate that. That will take us to 5.02, report on Phase 2 energy project, LED lighting upgrades, smart irrigation and artificial turf. Dr. McCord.
Thank you, Madam President, governing board members. This report tonight is something that we wanted to present to you and to get some of your thoughts and ideas from this meeting as well. And we'll be taking it to our, why am I drawing a blank?
The Master Capital Plan.
Yeah, Master Capital Planning. And that committee, and get some thoughts and ideas from them as well. And we'll determine whether or not we talk about this again. So turn it over to Ms. Betts.
You bet. So just to share the process, so we are presenting the high-level project overview to you tonight. We will be taking the particular project, asking for questions and more details to the Master Capital Planning Committee on the 8th of August, and then take that back to make a final recommendation to all of you at the governing board meeting on the 9th of August. So that's our schedule. Tonight, Mr. Brandon Woodward of Schneider Electric, he has worked with us in the past. He was expecting to be here tonight to present. He was unable to do that. However, I'd like to make sure that you knew that Tyler Delela is out in the audience. If you'd stand up for a second, Tyler. So he is here to make sure that he can answer any of your clarifying questions this evening. And then also, as Albert is the person on the ground and has been working closely with Schneider Electric on this project for the last 6 months, we are going to allow him to make the presentation that Mr. Woodward was going to present. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Dutchover.
Thank you, Ms. Betts. Madam President, Dr. McCord, members of the governing board. Just as Ms. Betts said, I apologize, Brandon couldn't be here, so I'm going to present, so hopefully I could do him some justice. I think he's watching, so hopefully I don't ruin this for him. As she noted, we're going to review the phase 2 of the lighting irrigation project. As I go through, skim through, feel free to ask questions if needed. This is a quick overview just as of our partner, Schneider Electric. This is their makeup and some of the history and their projects that they've worked on in the past. Phase 1 of the energy project was lighting upgrades to our gymnasiums and one multi-purpose room. We saw there was a deficiency definitely with our interior competition lighting in our gyms, as well as this is one multi-purpose room at Gilbert Elementary that was truly depleted. The lighting deficiency was high. I think it notes there it previously had lighting levels were at 12. We increased to 30-foot candles in that area. So. As we got into this project, we talked about it. It was definitely something that was really thought through rather than just thought of. So it wasn't something we just jumped into. Ms. Betts said, yes, we've been talking about it, inception for the last 6 months, but we've had discussions for over a year just to see what best fit, see if this would be a best fit situation. And we mapped out these 4 high-level objectives. We wanted to save energy, save water, save money, increase M&O staff efficiency, modernize the district facilities, as well as high visibility to the community as what we are doing and where their money was going to maintain that transparency. So this encompasses our goals, sports field lighting, as well as exterior LED lighting, that's parking lot and perimeter lighting at the facilities that we are touching. Smart irrigation, as well as some artificial turf pieces or some xeriscape landscaping pieces we would be implementing. So the sports field lighting, current challenges are limited control of the system. There is some remote access, some individual on-site manual access, but this would give us a greater control, monitoring, or management piece to our lighting. Excessive run times, inefficient fixtures. Again, with most lighting systems now, they're either the equipment's obsolete, hard to get, or there's a high maintenance piece that goes along with it. Poor lighting quality, again, that's noted with our previous project, foot candle deficiencies and other pieces there. So the biggest item necessarily is safety and maintenance that we're looking to try to curb or try to get more efficient at. Cost regular maintenance, again, there's pieces to sports lighting, and this was one of the drivers to it, not necessarily for the sports piece, but it was to reduce and become more efficient as a maintenance team. What we do is we do preventative maintenance on the lighting, but with the height of the sports field lighting, namely in the stadiums, that we don't carry a lift to access that lighting, so we have to rent the lift. So 4 out of our 5 comprehensive high schools, we take a 135-foot lift. Mesquite High School is the largest. We got to go up to a 150-foot lift. So I wrote down some numbers. So our 2021-22 lift cost was $7,500 per week, and we only rent it for a week. So that was per week. Now we need 2 lifts. Obviously, I told you the 135 and the 160. 6 sites. Again, we touch 6 sites, and that's secondary. So junior high lights, sport field lights, high school lights with that lift within that week's time. The 150-footer is for Mesquite High School. That's a one-day rental. The 135-foot boom is $4,800 for that week. The 150-foot boom is $2,700 for that one day that we rent that. These are growing costs. Obviously, that's fuel costs. We have delivery costs. We're looking at $130 per move per site. We utilize 2 electricians, 8 hours per day for 5 days. We have 3 electricians within the district. Currently, I have 2. I'm down 1. So I'm using them at the site, and we're having to manage time and working standard work orders and things like that around it. So we do make this a true scheduled event. Again, like I said, because the time is time consumption cost, what we do is we schedule it. We may have 5 lights out in one stadium. We get everything going. It looks beautiful. We get it fired up. We get to football season, soccer season. I got 4 more that are out. So I don't turn around and get a lift. We kind of just manage that back into the system. And currently, we do utilize some Musco lighting. Again, only those are, the majority of those sites are out of contract at this point, or out of warranty. Musco covers a 10-year warranty. That's technically really up to 2 years. So 10 years is deficiencies with craftsmanship or product. That doesn't cover the bulbs. That doesn't cover the drivers. That doesn't cover receivers. We do that in-house maintenance ourselves. Now, this project would entail and include a fully maintenance-free 10-year warranty. We lose a fixture, they're out there. They're taking care of the fixture. They're supplying the lift. They're doing that work within that 10-year period. So not only craftsmanship, maintenance, and product coverage for 10 years.
Albert, I do have a question about that. Once the 10-year warranty is passed, what would be required for us to address if a light went out? What would we then need to do? What would be the procedure if we had some lights that were out?
So it would be similar back to the same protocol that we're utilizing now. Again, we'd probably change a fixture at that point to address that issue or that deficiency within that cluster of lights. Again, 10 years down the line, depending on where technology is. But I don't have the true details. I mean, potentially just like other pieces of equipment, I'm assuming we would have a warranty on that piece. So coverage may be there. But again, I don't have the answer beyond that 10 year.
Okay. I appreciate that. Thank you. Would we just have, if at that time, would all of our football fields have the same height of poles so that we'd only have to rent one lift for this project? Or?
So with this one, we're still utilizing the same pole basis.
Oh, okay, so they'll still be different.
They will still be different. Well,
Okay.
The majority will be able to get touched by the 135-footer, the 150. Okay. And we've been asked in the past about a lift. This is a pretty sizable lift. It's pulled by a semi and flatbed, and it'd be fun to drive, but not cost efficient. So.
Okay, thank you.
Again, this is a modernization of those sports lights. Definitely significant improvement. We're going to get more efficiency, more light distribution on that field. It's more of a controllable light, a directional light, so we can reduce our light pollution, focus mainly on that competition piece. This is something that, again, we could help relieve some of the shadowing or shading, and create more of a safe playing environment. One thing we did add into this is that would come with this project is RGB technology, which allows for color changing pieces. So the venues could be more of a functional or controllable venue. We can incorporate school colors or band events, controllable pieces for ceremonies such as graduation, commencement speeches, or other rentable events that allow our venue. It basically enhances the interaction of our venues.
So Albert, before you go on to the video, today, if we lost power or something and the lights went out in a stadium, didn't you say that they have to cool down, get warmed up again before they can go back on?
Yeah, so currently we run metal halides. Again, it's a 2-device piece. We got a ballast, we got a light bulb, or we got to have the bulb. So as many know, once those go down, whether it's a power outage, whether somebody forgot to schedule the lights, you got a 10 to 20 minute warm up period. Then they got to cool back down. Once power comes back up, they got to warm back up again. So this is more instantaneous, on and off. Less likely, sometimes what happens is when you do have that inrush with some of the metal halide or incandescent bulbs, you do tend to lose one or two from time to time. I mean, that's rare, but it does tend to happen. This is a little bit different technology, so we have more of a efficient infrastructure piece now, or would.
Do we have an idea of how long these light bulbs themselves might last?
Honestly, I do not. I know that just similar with other LED products, more than likely, I would assume they would have an hour's life, but I'm just outside of that 10-year warranty. But we could get into some more of that detail down the line, though, as far as specifics to each individual fixture. I could defer that question to Tyler if Tyler does know. If not,
That would be awesome.
Thank you, Madam President, Dr. McCord, members of the board. To answer your question, LEDs last much longer, and with the run times with these, you could expect 20, 25 years out of these. So the technology these days compared to the metal halide is night and day. So.
All right, thank you. I appreciate that.
and so we'll get into a video that kind of shows the function of the lights and their capacity of the controllable system. One thing I would note too, like I said, with some of the controllability or management, we're able to do that similar to some of our pieces we have in play, like our EMS. We're able to use a tablet. We could function lights. We could control lights individually. It gives us another maintenance piece or a maintenance management piece that we could interact with or interface with. I'll play the quick video and go from there. One thing I want to note real quick, although, I did talk about the stadium lightings and things like that, or kind of showcase what that would involve. The stadium lighting is a piece of this project. Overall project was to get better with technology. So a larger piece of that project is truly the LED upgrade of both perimeter and parking lot lighting at 9 facilities. All 5 comprehensive high schools, 2 junior highs, Desert Ridge and Highland Junior, GCA and Canyon Valley. That was something At those facilities, again, the largest quantity of lights are at our larger facilities, those comprehensive high schools. Those two do have technologies that are failing. So we're having problems finding fixtures. Fixtures are obsolete. I believe at Highland High, we have walkway lighting, and I have about 8 poles that are out. We have the poles, but the fixtures we can't match up. So we could put hodgepodge poles. I wouldn't go back to the high pressure sodium lighting that they have in those lights. I'd go LED, but then I wouldn't have a consistency. The uniformity of lighting would be off. So when we're holding events, we would have shadowing. We would have just a true inconsistency or poor areas. Again, with anything else, like anything else, there's other pieces to lighting. So not only enhanced security, enhanced safety, and those are the pieces that we really, I really wanted to go off of, as well as not only the maintenance pieces that we're going to gain out of those lights in the stadiums. So here's some of the efficiency with the retrofit as a whole. You can see a couple areas that we're looking to touch are GCA's north lot. That has, when we planned that school, we put in a parking lot for student parking, not knowing how much it would grow. That does not have it's a lit parking lot. Not only for the students at night, early mornings, later mornings, but for events. So it's a dark area. You can see they technically have 0-foot candles in that area. At Gilbert High School, another big piece for me, and I noticed that going through just my time driving around, was that north drive. Their north drive, that's not only utilized by parents and staff, but the toy box. So parents are bringing their kids in as early as 6 a.m. And I mean, we're talking November, it's pitch black out there, and we're trying to take little ones out. That was kind of a concern to me for that safety piece, as well as parents pick up and drop off. It's basically they're dead of night in a sense when they're dropping them off or picking them up. So those are pieces that we want to nail and hopefully get better at. And then again, as we add, we want to make sure we're becoming efficient across the board and we're uniform. So when a head goes down on the other side of campus, it's going to be the same one on the north side of campus. So that again in itself helps us from a maintenance standpoint, because we're not buying multiple pieces to put in at the same location or same spot. We become more uniform or efficient in that sense. Again, we're also adding lights and to those entrance pieces, but we've just built multiple sand volleyball courts. Again, those are venues that have no lighting currently. We would add additional lighting, not to the scope of what I just shown you for the stadium pieces, but we would add new, improved, efficient lighting for those areas. Another piece of this project, again, it's largely encompassing of quite a few things, is smart irrigation. That's another thing that we want to get better at. Not only scheduling for events, it's a good management piece. Again, it's something we could use, our guys could use from our tablets. We're looking at sites that, I jotted down a couple numbers, but Mesquite High, 77 acres. That entire site's roughly 77 acres. Desert Ridge is 66 acres. Now, it may be 100 yards from a controller, from a valve box, and when our guys are out there trying to test sprinkler heads or troubleshoot, with this, it gives us the capability to do it within the palm of our hands, not having utilizing two technicians, one on one side, talking with radios or whatever it may be. They're able to do this on their own, operate valves, check heads, check the facility for water, and we can monitor it. Eventually, we could build out capabilities for leak management, isolation points, things like that this will give us the base infrastructure to build out to, as well as scheduling. I talked about events that we've had in the past where somebody forgot to schedule sprinklers and may have been parent camp out at an elementary school, and what happens, sprinklers go on, everybody goes into panic mode, they start getting into valve boxes, turning off valves and doing whatever they need to get the water off. Again, they go on with their weekend, they have a good time, and we forget about it. Well, it usually happens around this time. So what happens? It's 115 out, grass dies within 2 weeks. We don't know what's going on, find out somebody turns the valve off. So things like that helps us manage it, mitigate it, expedite response. One thing I wanted to know, I wanted to read the comment from Johnny Gutierrez, who is our athletic ground supervisor, and he's been in on this process with me every step of the way. This is kind of his baby in a sense, because he's on the ground there for those pieces. He said adding smart irrigation systems with remote access would be a huge win for our facilities team. We spent close to 16 to 18 man hours a week manually adjusting controls that we'd be able to remotely in a matter of minutes. And that's true. Like I said, we may be 100 yards, 200 yards, if not further, from multiple zones or multiple controllers. And the guys have to go in there and manually input each one, where we could do that from an office, we could do that from the palm of our hands. This would totally enhance that efficiency.
A question. Is there a separate software license required for controlling the lighting and the irrigation?
This one, let me defer to Tyler again on that one. We did discuss it. He's got all the details. Better details, I should say.
So, your question was in terms of software and controls? Yeah, so that with the system that we selected, with the Rainbird, there is a software that is applied with it. The software itself is free of charge in order for the online access and everything. With everything that we're currently looking at, we're looking at doing cellular, so there's a cellular charge on an annual basis, but that's it. There's no other software charges for that.
And no annual fee or anything like that?
No, just for the cellular service, which is directly from Rainbird.
Okay, thank you.
And again, benefits of the modernization, I apologize, I should have put that slide on ahead of time, is just, again, monitoring that times. Right now we've had a couple storms. Nothing drives you crazier. I mean, we're trying to work on these fields. It's Arizona. We don't know. They say it's going to rain, 100% chance it won't rain, 5% chance it's going to come down, 5 inches. So it drives us crazy to see that, knowing that we have the sprinklers running. So the sprinklers are running and running and running. Some of these pieces, like I said, we could build out to a larger infrastructure. This gives us our base to start off to improve. But things like saturation rates or rain monitoring, things like that will hold those back. So we're not watering during those times, or watering when we don't need to, and potentially watering only when we need to, depending on the saturation of the soil. So pieces that we could eventually get to.
I do have a question on this. So does this mean that we would need to replace the current irrigation system completely, or just add in these smart controllers?
Just add in the smart controllers. Okay. So not only was Rainbird a good product, we did vet a few products. High level Rainbird. I know Rainbird's a common name, and it kind of like, what do they bring? They do have a pretty intricate system, and it's literally just about as plug and play as you could get. It has front end pieces that are familiar with our guys already, so they don't have to learn a new piece. Language friendly, so we could alternate languages as well. So there's pieces in there that are just the guys are just gonna hit the ground running when they get into them. So really, it's just the control piece. We don't have to dig up any of the systems or any of the infrastructure pieces, any of the valves. It works with them. Pardon me. Some of the valve pieces we may need to change, but as far as a whole, this front end piece is going to be the biggest change out.
And will we try to use this across all of our campuses, or start with some campuses? What is the plan for that? Yeah,
so the irrigation piece, again, we are going to start with some of the campuses. And like I said, secondary obviously is the larger need, the larger acreage pieces for it. We are going to touch those areas and hopefully build out to the rest of our facilities. This is, again, it was the other part. The part of this, like I said, was trying to establish something that works, and that's why we wanted to partner with Schneider. We could have did this separately. There's some brainstorming sessions and things like that, trying to find what the best use is and what's best for our facility and what's the best what's the best product that we could ease into, and hopefully limit any bumps in the road or any errors along the way. But definitely the smart irrigation, like I said, there's over 50 controllers at 5 high schools, just the 5 high schools alone. Some of those high schools have up to 54 stations. So this helps us operate each one of those stations. So imagine a guy just being there in front of one, going through 54 stations, when we could utilize him, somewhere else or taking care of his day-to-day work.
So the time frame of maybe completing the smart irrigation might be a multi-year time frame, or just a couple years, 1 year? What?
As far as from the standpoint of these 9 facilities, or?
I guess if you're starting with 9, would that be this year then?
Yeah, this year.
And then we'll move forward with other campuses.
Then we'd move forward. Again, this would
Okay.
give us that process. We could vet that. We could vet the system. How do we get better as we move into, potential future projects, things like that.
Okay, thank you.
But the cost is just for these 9 facilities.
The cost is just for these 9 facilities.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Dutchover, you mentioned the term build-out. Curious about the actual hardware and mechanisms, both for the irrigation and for the LCD lighting. Should we expand? Is it flexible enough so that those expansion pieces are readily available, or do they turn over just like every technological piece every 18 months, and what we buy today will not be available 18 months from now?
Yes and no. So definitely in the lighting, again, as we see advancements, of course, what we buy today is going to be something different than what we could buy tomorrow. We're actually, with this system, we're putting ourselves, I feel, in a good position where we're not buying that base level. We're actually looking forward progressively, in a sense that we will be, within those few years, we will still be running with the pack, getting close to that life, that through that life cycle of the LED. Now the smart controllers, that one was more a true large caveat of this of that selection. Our current system can work with these controllers, and it's integratable in a sense that there's things in there that allow us to function and grow. Like I said, we could, when I talk build out, there's flow sensors that are currently in production that we could eventually use with these systems, or we could build to that. So we could keep what we've just purchased and add other pieces that are coming out to that to help, like I said, help that management piece. So if I get a call that has sprinklers on, a valve won't shut off, or have a line break, we could isolate that main valve, so we're not wasting water through a long weekend, through a vacation, or a break. Again, those are pieces that we'll be able to integrate down the line as they come forward, or they get to completion phases, as far as they build them out and grow these systems. So.
You answered the second part of my question. I'm getting a sense that the system is flexible enough that as it enhances from year to year from a company standpoint, that it may still fit with the existing system, so that there is compatibility with the new and the existing.
Yes.
Okay.
Some of the artificial turf solutions or landscaping pieces, again, this is mainly based on curb appeal. Curb appeal and use, I shouldn't say mainly based. As you look here to the left, we have a wrought iron fence next to a small strip of grass there at GCA, which again, we have to water. So we water and metal. Obviously, we're going to deteriorate that fence at the cost of iron these days. We're putting ourselves at a large expense. The goal is to try to mitigate any of those areas, or relieve any additional costs that we're taking on, unnecessary costs, by putting in artificial turf. That way we could do away with the watering at that point. similar to what we did at Neely, which is to the right there, for their pickup and drop-off area. Now, we also looked at a couple high schools, Desert Ridge and Mesquite High School. They have some large frontage areas, curb appeal areas that are high use. Again, have some nice shade trees, some other things that from time to time we lose those landscaping pieces. So those are that's our curb appeal. So trying to maintain that sometimes comes at a struggle. This would help us alleviate some of those worries with maintaining that curb appeal year round. And then to the far right, you could kind of just see some more deteriorative damage. That this is a prolonged watering and hitting the fence and block is done over time at another one of our facilities. Here's our saving opportunities. Again, here's a breakdown of what facilities would be touched and what's being done at each facility. Like I said, it's 9 facilities. Multiple pieces are being hit, and you can see, like I said, the larger piece is that exterior retrofitting parking lot. Perimeter lighting, all 9 of those facilities would be done throughout with all their exterior lighting, building lighting, and parking lot lighting.
If I could add to this slide. So note the project cost at the bottom, $6.7 million for all these projects. And it says in self-funding district modernization. So remember that Albert introduced this as an energy project. So generally speaking, when you do an energy project, you are leasing back the equipment that you're going to add to the organization. In this particular case, Albert and I knew we had all of these needs, but we asked Schneider to come forward and say, hey, we know we have all these needs. We know that we're going to capture energy savings and water savings and M&O savings. Can you quantify those savings for us and give us an idea and guarantee that we will see these savings over the life of the project? And so that's what they've done here. So we're not going to borrow money twice. We already have the bond dollars. But I hope if there's anything that you gained from the presentation today, is that we're not trying to find projects to fit. We're trying to capture projects that we know we need to do, and then just ask our partner to quantify what those savings could be so that we can share it with the community to say, hey, not only are we making upgrades that we need to make, but we are realizing savings that in the long run will actually pay back those costs. So just wanted to make sure that was clear.
I just had one question on the LED retrofit for the volleyball. You've got that at Gilbert High School and Mesquite High School. Do we have volleyball lighting at those other high schools?
No, there's no. So those 2 would be true retrofits. So we're head replacements. They currently have the lighting infrastructure, but we would, again, maintain that consistency. We would just upgrade those lights there as well. Yes, those other facilities, Desert Ridge High, Highland High School, and Campo Verde High School currently do not have any lighting infrastructure there.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Again, obviously, after this presentation, this is just our following steps preceding this. Any additional questions?
One. I know there's been some discussion with GCA on their athletic field. Is there any plan to provide lighting for them?
So this is the one we've gone, and I may defer back to Ms. Betts. We have, so I will say, I do want to make a point to say this is something we did look at as part of this project, but the proximity, pole placement, and some other things kind of left us vulnerable for true lighting pollution just because of the tight proximity of where the homes are to the field. It wasn't glanced over. Definitely, we did look at it. Schneider helped us out there and did some photometrics and some other things to see what that would look like. And it did have some pollution implications. Again, I'd probably defer to Ms. Betts for some additional inputs.
Dr. McCord, do you want to take this one?
You betcha. This is something that, we've talked about over time, and more than anything, I'd love to have lighting there, so all of our facilities had the most appropriate lighting for whatever events they had there that evening. But it's difficult because we have a community that has been well established for a long time, and that school has been there for a long time, and the last thing we want to do is encroach on their privacy in their backyards with light pollution. And so we're looking at some other alternatives to be able to utilize some portable lighting to be able to help out with specific events, but ensure the community knows that those aren't permanent and that we could turn them on at any time. So we're kind of exploring some of those options for them because we're trying to please everybody at once, and we don't know if we actually can, but we're going to do our best.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any further questions? Ms. Ujetti, do you have any questions?
No, I got all of mine answered earlier. Thank you.
Thank you. I think if there are no further...
I did.
yes,
I'm
Mr.
sorry. I
Dixon.
do have one more question because, it's been a while since those automobile dealerships were built on Gilbert Road. But there was a letter to the editor at that time, someone who was saying that, they were putting too much lighting in. And when it was built, it seemed like they had excess of lighting. How can we be sure that we're providing the lighting that we need and not adding to light pollution or providing more lighting than is necessary for the circumstances that we'll be using the lighting for?
So with these LED lighting is more directional. We could focus more, especially in those stadium areas, more towards the actual field of play. Right now, we're looking at the surface. Some of our lighting has 30-foot candles. That's because you're losing some lighting in some other areas. It's again with the technology we're going to provide. We're trying to target that 50-foot candle range directly onto that surface, allowing us to pull whatever we're losing to the outside back into that contained area. So that was, I'll be honest with you, even speaking back to the GCA project, it was like I can't say one thing about one area and not focus on that potential with other potential pollution in other areas. So that was a main goal, to capture as much pollution, do not add any more pollution, if anything, reduce light pollution that's bleeding off to the neighborhoods. Because again, there's quite a few of these schools, neighborhoods, so housing development. So we wanted to make sure we did not exceed. We got better in our any potential light pollution that was out there. So we did definitely look at that.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. That's really an important issue, and we just, we need to be aware of it. And when those dealerships went in, I was like, yeah, that guy was kind of right. Suddenly, it was really bright on Gilbert Road and not necessarily all on the dealership. So I really want us to make sure we do a good job of keeping the light pollution down as much as we can.
And Snyder did, like I said, they did a good job. Like I said, as we developed this, every site they did a photometric study at what these fixtures would produce, where they were, what their range was, and how much would hit the surface and how much would hit the outer areas. So they did focus quite a bit on that in those studies. So, and then the other good thing is, like I said, we'd be able to manage it better. So when we get that, someone forgot the lights on at the football field, we just turn over and hit the lights and go on. So.
All right, thank you.
I had just two quick questions. One, have we seen this in other districts or other schools? Have we seen this kind of thing going on? LED lighting?
LED lighting, yes, I believe so. I'd actually defer again to Tyler. We have in other districts, maybe not to this capacity. Our neighboring, actually, one of the areas I went to look at the demo for one of the products was Santan High School, which is next to Highland High School. so which is a charter school right next to Highland. They have a different style of fixture than we're looking for, but they have an LED lighting upgrade there for their football field. And then a few other high schools that do have them. I know there was I'll let Tyler speak to it, but I know there was, I believe, Chaparral High School, and then there was some things there that he may want to talk to you.
Thank you, Madam President. A good question. For football field lights, it is becoming more and more popular to go with LED. So this is what's really awesome about this project is it's not you just guys are getting ahead of the curve. You guys are going extra with the RGB lighting and controls. So to go back to your question about the longevity or the flexibility, you guys are setting the new standard for high schools in the area. So yes, it is. LED lights are becoming the thing for football field lights. It's just a technology evolution overall. But and this not only matches it, but it does exceed it. Does that answer your question?
Yep. That's good. Thank you. I'll ask Mr. Ditchover. So do you feel like if we changing out these lights that we have, do you feel like we've got the life and use out of the lights that that have originally been in place, and that we've maximized, the use of the lights that are already there? Like, is there a reason that we would feel like you hadn't, how old are these lights that you're looking at replacing, especially like the stadiums and even around the schools?
So the perimeter lighting, we'd have to look at each high school, but you're looking at maybe 15 to 30 years. Actually 30 years plus, because we're talking Gilbert High School. So some of those fixtures are life of the building. Some in some of the remodel areas may be a little bit newer, but Highland High School, those fixtures have been there since '93. And again, stadium lighting as well. We're looking at, 15 to 20 years on some of these lights. Like I said, out of all our facilities, only 3 sites still carry a Musco warranty. South Valley, which we're not touching at this time, and Highland Junior, there are 2 that have them there. So areas we're not touching still carry it, but like I said, they were a 10-year warranty, and we're well outside of that warranty. So we're like I said, we're probably 20 years plus with some of these lights. Okay. Infrastructure pieces are staying, like the poles and things like that. So
okay.
Albert, on the Highland Junior lights, refresh my memory. Did we install those, or was that the city of Mesa, and then they ended up, after so much amount of time, they gave them to Gilbert Public Schools?
Those ones that maybe have been before my time. I don't know exactly how that went, because they are one of the few. Like I said, South Valley and Highland Junior are the few that have. Or Highland Junior the only one with stadium lights on that field. So
I think we took control of those over like 2005 or 6, and because when the fields were rented, it was an interesting deal because we would do the field rental, but if they wanted lights, we had to work through the city of Mesa. And I think when they were originally built, when the school was built, in order to light more fields for youth sports, the city of Mesa put that in with, I think after a 10-year commitment, they rolled over to our control. So.
And so to answer your question, I feel we've gotten plenty life out of the fixtures and technology.
Okay. And so I heard, maintenance, safety, what are any other deficiencies or benefits that have made these a priority, these changes that have made these a priority for you?
Just to that, I can't speak enough to the maintenance piece, I'll be honest, not only the man hours, but again, nothing happens in the middle of the summer when nobody's there. Mm-hmm. I got 5 lights that end up going out in a walkway or whatever it may be. Then all of a sudden we're scrambling to try to find, during an event, we're trying to find, I'm drawing a blank now. We're trying to find obsolete fixtures. We're trying to find a retrofit piece. There's other pieces that we're trying to find, and we're trying to just work from scratch. One story I could give you is Highland High School, what we did in the past, and it was right before the start of school, and it was going to be somewhat a meet the teacher night or something like that. We lost the large walkway poles that are in all the walkways throughout the campus. So I had our guys still heads from out off the field so we could get those going. So we basically robbed Peter to pay Paul. And it's just become harder. So like in some of these storms, some of the areas where light poles have been hit with water and then they've fallen over and the head's broken. So now we don't have nothing to steal from. We're trying to find heads, and this was even a conversation prior to this discussion of the project was, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to buy the 10 heads we need, and then we're going to take the 10 heads from the back, and we're going to take those, we're going to put those over here, we're going to put those heads over here, and then we'll have, efficient lighting across the board. So we get creative, we're trying to get creative, but this will help us in that case. This will give us a newer technology. It'll, like I said, even just some of those fixtures being obsolete, that tells you how much life we've gotten out of them. That technology, and I'll be perfectly honest, some of that technology at the time may have been on the cusp of being obsolete within that 5 to 10 year time. That is why when we look to it, we look for something that will put us in that mid-range. Like, we don't want to start from behind, we want to start ahead. Just as Tyler said, we want to be ahead of the game. We want to set the standard, because that only benefits us. That creates efficiency pieces, that ease of replacement and things like that, and lowers those maintenance costs.
So to add to that, Mrs. Wood, in my talking with Brandon about the project, and Tyler, maybe you could help me out here, but I do believe he said that our lighting level in our stadiums is deficient. So I think the target is, 50 foot candles or something?
It's 50,
and what
yeah.
are we at? We're at
30.
We're at 30. So there is some level of getting us up to the standard for stadiums that goes to safety as well of our athletes and those using our fields.
Thank you. Dr. Santa Cruz?
Mine is not a question, but a comment, and that is, having spent a good portion of my life on a high school and junior high school campus, safety is an important feature, and let's just not talk about athletics at the moment. Let's talk about an evening event at any one of our high schools, a concert, a dramatic production, a meeting of some sort, and our customers, our parents, are going into the parking lot to their vehicles, and a good number of the lights in the parking lot are not functioning. It's pretty dark out there. And we have had more than one situation where an elderly person, or maybe not even quite so elderly a person, tripped on a crack in the concrete because it was dark and they couldn't see. Those drop-off points for the younger kids, particularly Toy Box, those become a hazard for us. So the safety feature is really, really an important one, albeit, we're looking at an expense, to be sure. But we're also looking at the safety, now moving into the athletic realm, of those young people who play on those fields, and shadowing on a night baseball game could be deadly. Shadowing on an evening football game could hurt someone pretty severely. So those pieces are there. And then lastly, the efficiency of upgrading and the ecological impact on consumption of energy and the expense that we would incur by not updating really provides a great deal of food for thought for me.
Thank you, Dr. Santa Cruz. Are there any other questions or comments? Thank you very much, Mr. Dutchover. We appreciate it. Ms. Betts?
Thank you.
Thank you, and we have the timeline as we go forward to continue looking at this, so thank you very much. That concludes our reports, and will take us to the consent agenda items. 6.01, approval of consent agenda items. Board members, may I have a motion?
I move that we approve the consent agenda items as presented.
Thank you, Ms. Humphries. It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Parker. It's been moved and seconded that we approve the consent agenda items as as
Presented.
presented. And I will call for a vote. All those in favor, please vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Those,
Aye.
thank you. And those opposed with nay? That will pass 5-0. Thank you, board members. That takes us to the request for future agenda items. Is there anything at this time? Please, as always, let myself, Dr. McCord, Ms. Wilson know if there's something to be put on the agenda that you would request. That will take us now to board committee reports, beginning with the Gilbert Education Foundation. We are meeting this week to plan out the year, so I'll have more next month. That's my report. 8.02, City of Mesa Liaison and Legislative Representative Ms. Humphreys.
I have nothing to report tonight.
Thank you. 8.03, Town of Gilbert Liaison, Dr. Santa Cruz.
I have nothing to report.
8.04, Finance and Audit Committee, Mr. Parker.
Nothing to report.
8.05, Insurance Trust Representative, Ms. Ugetti.
We haven't met yet, so I have nothing to report.
Okay. I will expect more next month from all of us as we meet again. Dr. McCord, could you please go over our meeting dates?
Thank you, Madam President, governing board members. August 9th, we have a board work study and a brief board business meeting. August 16th, we have a board policy committee meeting. And August 23rd, we have our regular board business meeting.
Thank you very much. That takes us to 10.01 for adjournment. Board members, is there a motion?
I move to adjourn.
Thank you, Ms. Humphreys. Is there a second? Second. Thank you, Dr. Santa Cruz. It's been moved and seconded that we adjourn. All those in favor, please vote by saying aye.
Aye.
I think she hung up.
Oh, she disconnected. Okay, thank you. Any opposed with nay? Okay, we have adjourned, and we appreciate your attendance tonight. Thank you very much.